Now, Canada isn't a country well known for its culture or history in football.
And soccer is paused. Oh my gosh, he's running. Which way is he running? Whoa, 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 whoa.
After only recently qualifying and featuring in the 2022 FIFA World Cup for the first time since the 1986 edition, and also only recently developing an official Canadian Premier League, it's safe to say that Canada isn't a hotbed for fostering talent. But surprisingly, there have been a number of few Canadians who have gone on to have pretty special and excellent careers, both for their respective clubs and as well for the Canadian senior team. This is going to be the best 11 of Canada's greatest men's players till date, and we're going to be sporting a 4-3-3 formation with 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 3 forwards, as well as, of course, our number 1 goalie. This list is based on the players' club careers as well as their performances for the Canadian national team. So although genuinely world-class players like Owen Hargreaves and Yassine Bounou were born in Canada, they were never actually capped by the Canadian national team and unfortunately are not eligible for this list. With all that being said, let's get right into it. Goalkeeper Craig Forrest. Although Milan Borjan has been Canada's number 1 goalkeeper for the past few years, plus being the most capped Canadian goalkeeper of all time, he's actually had a pretty respectable club career playing over 180 games for Red Star Belgrade. But I give our number 1 list to Craig Forrest, as he's also had a pretty respectable club career playing in England for a number of years for teams such as Ipswich Town, West Ham United, and even Chelsea. He racked up over 300 club appearances in the English top divisions between the sticks, where he proved to be a very dependable number 1. Although he was in net for the infamous 9-0 loss to Manchester United in 1995, alongside fellow Canadian fullback Frank Yallop. However, his heroics for the Canadian national team is what makes him the number 1 in our list, as he was Canada's goalkeeper for a while, racking up 56 caps for the national team, and was also part of the team that won the Gold Cup in 2000, where he picked up the tournament's MVP and Best Goalkeeper award. He retired in 2002, and now you probably know him as the broadcaster in Sportsnet. Hopefully, the next generation of Canadian goalkeepers can go on to emulate his performances and bring home some trophies for the boys. Center back Jason DeVos. DeVos was a 6'4" towering Canadian center back who made over 200 appearances in the English Championships for teams such as Wigan Athletic and Ipswich Town. He was a very solid Canadian center back who got 49 caps for the national team and also captained the team to the Gold Cup trophy in 2000. He's been inducted into the Canadian Soccer Hall of Fame and is regarded as one of the greatest Canadian center backs. Center back Kevin McKenna. Now, McKenna is actually a pretty interesting player, being that he wasn't only a decent center back, but he also featured sometimes up front as a target man. He had a pretty decent club career in the German division and the Scottish Premiership, making over 200 appearances. However, it's his eye for goal that really catches our attention, as he contributed to over 20 goals in both the Bundesliga and the Scottish Prem. For Canada, he racked up 64 caps during his time and chipped in 11 goals for the national team, which is the most by a Canadian defender. Right back, Paul Stalteri. Stalteri is an Etobicoke-born Toronto native who came through the Canadian youth ranks all the way from under 17, but this guy also had a very great club career, making over 170 appearances in the Bundesliga, and he also won the German Bundesliga with Werder Bremen and the German Cup twice as well. He also had a pretty good career in the Premier League, playing 55 games in the Prem, where he won the Leagues Cup in 2007 with Tottenham Hotspurs. And if you know anything about football, winning a trophy with Tottenham is not an easy thing. He was also part of the team who won the Gold Cup in 2000 and had a very good career for the Canadian national team. He racked up a whopping 84 caps, which makes him the 3rd most capped Canadian of all time, and chipped in 7 goals in that time. He was a very versatile player who played mostly in forward positions for Canada, but was also known as a very reliable fullback on either flank and will be a solid addition at right back for this team. Left back, Alphonso Davies. Now this is a player most people were probably expecting to hear first. Davies is an absolute Canadian star, the first player born in the 21st century to feature in the MLS. He is an MLS wonder kid who earned a move to Bayern Munich from Vancouver Whitecaps, and ever since for Bayern he's made over 100 appearances in which he's won the German League 5 times in a row, he's won the Champions League, he's won the German Cup 3 times in a row, the UEFA Super Cup, and also the Club World Cup. Like, what more do I need to say? This guy is also the 2-time CONCACAF Player of the Year and scored Canada's first ever goal at a men's FIFA World Cup when he scored against Croatia in the 2nd minute of the game. Which, fun fact, was also the quickest goal at the 2022 World Cup. For the Canadian national team, he's racked up 41 caps so far, where he's contributed 14 goals and 17 assists, which is a pretty insane goal contribution for someone who mostly plays fullback regularly for his club. At the age of 23, he's already the most decorated Canadian player already and is probably going to be the future GOAT for this national team. Center midfield, Atiba Hutchinson. Now moving on to our midfield position, our first holding midfielder is going to be Atiba Hutchinson, absolute Canadian legend. He's the most capped Canadian men's player of all time with 104 appearances for the national team. And he's actually had a pretty amazing European career as well. He won the Danish League 4 years in a row from 2005 to 2009 with Copenhagen. He also won the Turkish Super League 3 times with BESTXI and was named the Canadian Player of the Year 6 times. This guy was a very versatile player who played in many positions: defensive mid, center mid, fullback, pretty much anywhere you needed him in the field, and would be a solid addition to the midfield. Center midfield, Julian de Guzman. Now a second holding midfielder is going to be Julian de Guzman. Now this guy is actually low-key a Canadian legend. He's got a whopping 89 caps for the Canadian national team and also had a pretty great European career, making over 300 club appearances in midfield in Germany and Spain, where he actually was the first Canadian to ever play in the Spanish La Liga. He was also the first ever Canadian to become a designated player in MLS history when he signed for Toronto FC. Individually, he won the 2007 Gold Cup MVP, despite Canada actually losing out in the semifinals. So this guy is an absolute Canadian legend and will be a solid addition in our midfield. Center attacking mid, Dwayne De Rosario. De Rosario, now this guy is low-key another Canadian legend. He's racked up over 100 goals in the MLS during his career, where he won the MLS 4 times, also won the Golden Boot, and was named the Canadian Men's Player of the Year 4 times as well. For the national team, he got 81 caps and scored 22 goals for the national team, in which he also won the Gold Cup in 2000. He's the 5th most capped Canadian player of all time and will be an absolute great addition in our attacking midfield. Left wing, Cyle Larin. Now, Cyle Larin is actually Canada's all-time top scorer with 28 goals. This is a Canadian player that had a lot of hype in his younger years, being the first pick in the 2015 MLS Super Draft and breaking the record for the most goals scored by a rookie in the MLS, where he racked up 17 goals in his first season for Orlando City. This guy was the original Canadian wonder kid before Alphonso Davies, and he ended up netting 44 times for Orlando City before moving on to BESTXI, where he had a pretty good season in 2020, winning the Turkish League and bagging 19 goals, which also got him the Turkish League Striker of the Year award. But ever since then, he's moved around Europe and is currently playing in the Spanish La Liga. For Canada, he's racked up 62 caps and 28 goals. Right wing, Thomas Rosicky. Despite being born in Poland, Rosicky represented Canada as he had moved here when he was a teenager. He had a pretty scandalous national career with drama over him not turning up after being called up for the national team, but Rosicky still managed to appear 44 times for the Canadian men's team. However, it's his club career that's most interesting, with over 500 appearances and 200 professional goals. He contributed over 100 goals in the Belgian league for Anderlecht and played over 35 games in the Premier League for teams such as Everton and Fulham. For the national team, he chipped in 10 goals in his 44 caps. However, it's his club career that speaks for itself. He's easily one of the most prolific ever Canadian forwards and definitely deserves to be on this list. Center forward, Jonathan David. Now, this guy is probably Canada's most prolific forward ever, an absolute goal machine with 25 goals for the national team in 42 appearances. He scored a lot of goals for Canada and is probably going to be our most prolific ever striker. This is a very young player who still has a lot to prove in, but has actually done a lot in his career already. He won the French Ligue 1 in the 2021 season, beating out the likes of Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi. So this guy is an absolute young legend and is probably onwards going to be a very, very prolific striker for the Canadian national team. So this is the final 11 of the greatest Canadian men's players ever. Let me know down below if you agree or not, or let me know if there's any players I might have missed out on, or any players you believe deserve to be on this list. Comment down below. Feel free to like, share the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys for more videos. Peace out.